everyone? This is JamieStarr with the New World News Network. First off, forgive me if I seem a little out of it. I'm fighting off this stomach bug illness, so I'm not doing too well, feeling a little sick, but there's something far more sickening going on in society, and it is this nonsense concerning race. And some of this stuff, I had pulled it for the next podcast, but I don't want to talk about race stuff because it honestly, it's a distraction. Like, you have terrorist attacks and you have the world on the brink of like World War III, and there's just this petty, superficial stuff about race going on. But there's the one aspect that bothers me the most is this little tidbit I keep hearing being brought up. And as you can see from the graphic, black on black crime. Shame really, you get blown away and Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and Barack Obama won't say a word on your behalf. And nobody marches. And, like, from the bottom of my heart, black people, cut the shit. For real. Like, cut the shit, cut the excuses. We're going to get into a whole bunch of videos and just stuff I've pulled that's appalling. Like, I see these stats, oh, the average human attention span is a goldfish, and it really must be. It must be, because I got a video we're going to get into. D.L. Hughley goes on, oh, I don't try to get into the minds of people, and then goes on and accuses everyone of being racist, which is a thought crime. That's what it is. This race issue is going to introduce the idea of thought crimes. Then we also have the infantilization of black people. The fact that no matter how old you are, you're always a baby. And I don't think there's any black man out there that wants to be looked at as a little infant, not responsible for their own life or their own decision making or the consequences that comes with that. Whole bunch of nonsense. Whole bunch of nonsense. And I don't know how black people are feeding into this or buying into it or tolerating it, how they don't feel belittled by all of it. And one of the other aspects I want to cover, I pulled this, African American mental health illness stigma, which is something I had heard about. You kind of don't really hear about it as much anymore, and I've realized because that's where this all perpetuates from. So, you know, for example, I at one point when I was in my latter teens, early 20s, I had mental health issues. I started to see a therapist, really great therapist, and, you know, my issues were more along the lines of taking on the burdens and the problems of all of my friends. And I think this is in part of growing up with a single mother, not having a good source of masculinity to balance that out, not knowing where to detach myself. You know, people make their own choices. I could only help my friends so much because they make their own choices. So I would just become overwhelming, and I would stretch myself so thin in trying to help everyone that it would often lead my own life to being in shambles. And so you have all this stuff going on, and it's just so crazy because at no point does it look like paranoia or, you know, over anxiety. Like, I see these things where, you know, black people are like, I got into a conversation one time with a friend, and I tried to tell them that if you see an incident where a black man gets pulled over by a cop and it ends badly, and then you then assume that any time you get pulled over by a cop that it's going to end badly like that, that's unhealthy. That's mentally unhealthy, and it's a bad place to come from. And people in society are perpetuating this idea. And now, I'm not going to defend all things going on in policing. There's plenty of stupid laws out there, shouldn't be enforced. The law could use a lot of reform, and part of this problem is we've let lawyers get into making the laws. Now, a lawyer's job is to enforce laws and, you know, go to court and everything like that. So of course lawyers are, if they're writing laws, they're just going to write more and more because they got to keep their buddies from law school working. I don't know how this is like some grand fucking conspiracy theory. It's all so self-evident when you look at all of it. So, where to start? Let's start with the infantilization. Um, Now, I noticed even when I was in high school, because I went to a predominantly black high school, you would have it where even the white girls I went to school with, they would want to be accepted by all the black kids. So they would joke around with them, make up these little cutesy names. Oh, call me Shaquisha, call me Laquina, call me this, and that. And, you know, I'm sure there's some crazy person who's going to call it cultural appropriation. But on the other hand, I look at these situations like Sean King and Jesse Williams, and even if you see my video, the Conversations with a Black Supremacist, the prequel, I've noticed this trend where all of the mixed people choose to identify as being black. They try to completely ignore their white side, even though that's the side of them that in their warped little minds is privileged or whatever else, and they opt towards being black. And it's mind-boggling because it's like, okay, if being black just comes with this list of negative, ill-intended consequences and everything like that, why are you opting towards it? Why does Sean King, who physically appears white, claim he's a black man, let alone claims his mom's a whore for the sake of making this claim? It doesn't make any sense to me. Rachel Dolezal. You don't see many black people trying to be white. And that's because I think a lot of logical thinking people who are aware of the sections, not just the laws, the sections of laws that are only applicable and there to benefit blacks are not there to benefit whites. There's a systemic advantage to being black on some levels. It comes with many privileges. Any lawyer could obviously tell you this. So, to start off, here's this article. A mom asks what will happen when her son becomes a grown black man. Notice how it's not grown interracial man, grown mixed race man. It's a grown black man. The one drop rule, back in effect. I said this before. And it's not done in this negative white people trying to say, oh, well, if you got one drop of Negro blood, you're a nigger. It's black people coming out and saying, oh, well, if I'm the tiniest bit black, then I'm black. I mean, again, it throws their narrative on its head. I can't make heads or tails of it. So you have her just going on being like, all these people think my kid is so cute and everything like that, but what if he grows up? What if he wears a hoodie? Then are they going to cross the street when he walks by? Are we going to have to defend his value? And it's like, well, it depends. Is he putting forth anything of value? You know, one of the things I was unaware of, I was aware that the government ships in drugs, Iran-Contra and everything like that. I didn't realize until the end of the movie To Kill the Messenger, which I recommend everyone checks out. Really amazing movie. The funny thing is I've had people comment on here saying I look like Jeremy Renner, which, you know, he plays Hawkeye, kind of badass. But Jeremy Renner does an amazing job in that movie. But there's parts at the end of it where you see certain lawmakers and everything like that demanding accountability for the CIA shipping drugs into the inner city. You have Freeway Ricky Ross, who's been out talking about it, doing, you know, putting out books and everything like that. And it's one of these things where it's like, okay, black communities, you know the government under the Clintons set up this minimum sentencing thing. You know that. I mean, there is a system, the war on drugs, that is targeting you guys and everything like that. But no one's forcing you to sell the drugs. And that's the thing. And you have it where, you know, in white mobster culture, where it's actually funny. I was engaged to a girl whose grandfather was Italian mafia. Her grandmother, they just call her the boss. Family owns shipping ports. And you can look up her grandfather on all these crime sites and everything like that. But it would always add the part that he was part of the old school of mobsters, and all the new school were into narcotics and guns and things like that. But the old school weren't about that. They didn't want to do anything that was going to be detrimental to their own neighborhoods. And you don't see that with gangster culture. They don't give a fuck. I mean, they will shit where they sleep. They will sell crack in their own housing projects to the fiend down the hall. And it's one of these things where, you know, that's one of the issues no one's forcing you to do. There's a handful of issues in the black community, whether it's single motherhood and the unintended consequences of it, the selling of drugs within your own communities, and the dropping out of school. No white person is forcing that upon anyone, you know, and it's funny because a good friend of mine who eventually joined the Freemasons, he would have people go up to him at work, and you know, they would notice he'd be reading his Mason books when he was first joining, and they would present him these conspiracy theories about how the Masons run the world. I mentioned this in another video, how there's these like kind of correlating theories where it's like, oh, the Jews run everything, the Masons run everything, white supremacy runs everything, and it's like, it might be a handful from each of the groups and they're all in coordination, but how solid could your theory be if someone has an alternate theory about a completely different group and everything like that? But the friend would tell him, what Mason is assigned to ruining your life? And the people would say, well, what are you talking about? And he'd be like, no, what Freemason is assigned to you to making sure you can't get what you want out of life? Now, keep in mind, this is a black guy, too, joining the Freemasons and everything. Joining one of these groups that does kind of have special privileges, but it's also because they do more in society than the average person. You know, they're involved in different charity events and everything like that. I've been to cookouts that they would have at his lodge and everything. But it's true. There is no white person assigned to each individual black person making sure their life sucks and everything like that. And you just see this continuing void of responsibility. So someone goes on, they were kind of spewing this hatred and misunderstanding of what they felt was happening, Johnson recalled. A large group of people were saying this are people that a large group of people that were saying this are people that love my kids. For some reason, there was an exception of my kids because they are small. It infuriated me. There was such a huge disconnect with white people and with the pain that the black community is feeling after this. Well, it depends on if those feelings are rationalized or not. You know, people will give children a pass because we assume they're ignorant. They're ignorant to the ways of the world. They're still testing the bounds. They're still, I mean, they're children. You shouldn't have to explain this stuff. This is a mentally retarded society, really. And it mentions in here, Johnson is a mom of 4 children who are biracial. But yet, notice she says her son will grow up to be a black man, not a biracial man. I'm so cute now. Everyone comments on my beautiful skin, my adorable curls. But I ask you this. What about when I'm 25? My skin gets darker. Why will it get darker? My curls will get tighter. I'm wearing baggy pants. Why are you going to wear baggy pants? Why are we assuming that you are going to fit a stereotype? Maybe a hoodie or a baseball cap. Will you lock your car doors when I cross the street? Will you embrace and welcome me when I'm a full-grown black man? Will you value my life the same way you value my white mom's or my dad's? My black daddy who gets pulled over for following too closely at a stoplight or for doing 3 miles over the speed limit. Again, this is stuff that happens to everyone. I'm going to bring this up. I'll have a video that exemplifies this point. I was arrested once. I was arrested being the passenger in a car. The muffler was fucked up. The driver had drugs on him. I was fixing my belt, and the cop behind us thought I was stuffing something in the back of the seat. And so he pulled us over. We all got out of the car. I didn't have my ID. He swore I was stuffing something in the back of the seat. Then he found the drugs on my friend, and what he chose to do, even though the drugs were the driver's, he let the driver go. He took me, he took my friend who was with us, there were the three of us, and he brought us in. He didn't read us our rights. He brought us in the car after he realized there was nothing stuffed in the seat and we weren't lying to him, but he had already called it in. He was very cordial. We drove over to the police station, questioned us, hey, why, guys, what's with the coke in the car? Why are you doing drugs? I mean, like, concerned. Now, at that point in time, I had been dealing with a opiate problem. I had Suboxone on me, which is a medication. Again, I have no problem throwing my personal business out there. I'm very comfortable with who I am. The only person whose judgment I fear is God. So I had the medication on me. He immediately kind of sympathized with me because he had lost a uncle to heroin use. And he had said, you know, I've heard this is the miracle drug. I wish they had this for my uncle and everything. So he was very cordial and everything. And we drove over to the police station. He had another cop help with the paperwork. We're there joking around. He's like, yeah, just let's get this paperwork done as soon as we can. Their buddy is going to come back. Again, the person who had the drugs with the fucked up car, he's just free. They have him coming to pick us back up and everything. And, you know, they just write us these simple tickets for not having our IDs. We go to court for it. Prosecutor says some shit I didn't understand, or the district attorney or whoever said some shit, and everything got dropped. My friend who was with me, who's been arrested several times, he was blown away. He was like, oh my God, that's never happened. And I said, yeah, it's because he didn't read us our rights. It was just whatever. It was just some bullshit ticket. Got dropped, nothing, stay out of trouble for 6 months, nothing came of it. I have nothing on my record. I'm good. Shit happens though. It was the worst day of my life. I mean, there's nothing, and I sympathize with people who have to go through that experience. There's nothing worse than having handcuffs put on you and not being able to freely walk away from a situation. I mean, it's awful. But there's a way to deal with these things. So anyway, that'll become more relevant when I show a different video. Will you smile and take my ID and insurance card like my mom? Or will you ask if I have warrants before even asking for my license like my dad? Alright, another example. I got pulled over with a friend by a bunch of undercover cops. And they immediately pulled us out of the car. They asked, are you on drugs? I said, I smoked pot a couple hours ago. Nothing on me or in the car though, officer. When's the last time you were arrested? Immediately, there was a presumption I had been arrested. So then I said, oh, I don't know, it was August, maybe a year or two ago. How do you not know when you were arrested? I said, excuse me, I wasn't arrested. I was brought into custody, and it was all of 2 or 3 hours. It's not something I try to remember daily. It was just like a shitty situation that happened. I mean, these cops thought they were going to get the fucking mother load or something. Why is there a leaf blower in the car? Oh, because my friend owns a fucking driving range with a, like, golf course, and we have to blow off the course? Why is there a leaf blower in the car? Then his dad has these little, like, stones from, like, Virginia Beach or something. What's with the rocks in the car? I don't know, what does his fucking parents put the rocks in the car? My friend, who's got a fucking fucked up foot, can barely walk. His one eye's all messed up from getting hit in the fucking face with a paintball. Oh, well, do you have anything on you? Yeah, I have some of my medication. I have an Oxycontin or two. Oh, well, you know, you're not supposed to just have this amount. You're supposed to have the whole prescription with you. And this I don't understand. this really blows my mind. Because for some reason, legally, you're supposed to carry around your entire script with you, rather than just what you might need while you're out. And I don't know how that isn't more incriminating. So again, there are plenty of things within the legal system that I think could be reformed. But the situations these people talk about are, again, denying the reality that it happens to all of us. So anyway, think about the human beings you are judging. Think about them being someone's sweet baby, someone's big brother, someone's nephew or niece. This is not just about police. This is about all of us and how we shape our opinions and views of this world and its people. Our children are watching. And here's the other thing that bothers me, is there's such a polarization, because I'll get into this other video where this crazy black woman is going to be talking about white people and basically calling them demonic and, you know, everything else. When I hear this stuff, all I think of are the images portraying Jews as rats during World War II and things like that. There's a dehumanization of white people and an infantilization of black people. And I don't know if it's a byproduct of the feminization of society where it's just not cool to be a man. You know, because men are, you know, strong and responsible and everything like that. So, I mean, even if you look here, he looks like he might be mixed himself. So, Johnson said her sister convinced her to share the post when she penned it on Facebook after typed it out as a journal entry. It's been shared over 550 times. White moms were able to understand in a way they wouldn't be able to understand if I weren't white, Johnson said. I'm using that now to get my message across, even though it wasn't intended to be shared. It's out there. Now it's out there. I would love for it to help us pay attention to the thoughts we're having. When you see a grown black man, what do you feel when you see a white man? When you see a grown black man, do you feel what you feel when you see as a white man? I'm sorry. Again, I'm just sick. I just want our thinking to shift. I want it so when I see a man, it's irrelevant what color he is. What is it? I mean, again, these are so regressive ideas where it's like, oh, well, we should recognize the black man as a white man. Why are you recognizing your half-white son as a black man? What's going on here? What is wrong with these people? So, here you see, you know, this whole not caring about the responsibility aspect of it. We have this video that came out of a bunch of cops. Now, notice you can't see what's going on before. I think what happened was this guy was jaywalking or something. Again, another stupid crime. And there are parts in the legal system where when you go to court for something, I forget what it's called. It might be jury nullification. David Knight on InfoWars brings it up frequently, and it's a good thing he does, because it's a very important thing that lots of people like myself aren't that aware of. But the jury isn't just there to judge if you're innocent or guilty. The jury's there to judge if the law is justified. And then because precedent is set, you can have things therefore get overturned from that. Again, there is a problem with an overall ignorance of how the system works. You know, all right, well, I'll get to that point. Let's go to this first. So this kid was jaywalking. Cop pulls him over to write a ticket. The kid was going to be catching a bus, and I guess because he felt like catching the bus was more important than the cop writing him a ticket, the cop then went after him. Which, I mean, again, it all seems logical. There's no hidden mystery here. A cop has you standing aside, you're being detained, you're not able to leave that situation. You try to leave, he's going to use force to stop you. But the important thing here is listen to the woman in the background. Oh, sorry if this is really loud, but listen to the woman in the background. Get the fuck up! Get on the ground!
It's a fucking sound! What's wrong with sound? It's a fucking kid! Get off of him! It's a kid!
Stop resisting!
It's a kid! Get the fuck off of him! It's a fucking kid here! It's a sound! It's a fucking sound! What's wrong with...
Alright, enough of that. I have a headache. But you can hear her. That's a kid. That's a kid. That's a fucking child. That's a child. Let me tell you something, bitch. I mean, granted, when I was a little kid, and I had my real bad Lyme disease, and I hated getting needles, it would take like 6 people to hold me down for me to get blood work. But I was also like trained in martial arts and shit like that, so I was swinging at grown adults. But it doesn't take 9 police officers to hold down and handcuff a fucking child, a kid. That kid doesn't look like a kid. And this is the same thing you saw with Trayvon Martin. Bashing a guy's head into the sidewalk. Busting his head wide open. Defenseless, harmless little child. He's a child. Oh, sweet little child. I mean, it's this babying of everyone. Never responsible. Consequences, no, just little babies. Sweet little innocent babies. Always. And I don't know how black men haven't stood up and said, we're not. We're not. Start treating us like men. I mean, I guess it's easy to place blame on everything else. There are points in my life where I did it. I would always try to scapegoat my problems onto everyone else. And then I realized it was far easier for me to take all the responsibility. Because when you take all the responsibility, again, this is one of these things where, you know, I'd have people on my videos, oh, well, you know, the reason you're not getting views is because you suck and you just don't want to admit it. And they always get a little thrown off when I come out and say, if there's a problem with me, then I'm glad it's me. Because it's easier for me to fix me than for me to try to fix everyone else. That, again, goes to that line of thinking, that perspective that was given with me when I recognized that I was having mental health issues that I needed to help get addressed. And I didn't have to have them addressed through prescription drugs or anything like that. I just needed someone in my corner giving me a more balanced perspective on life, telling me there's nothing wrong with not answering the phone some days. There's nothing wrong with putting yourself first some of the times. You have to have balance. So, here's another video. And this is the situation where, you know, I had a liberal friend of mine share this on Facebook. And I think it's very funny because it goes to this sort of virtue signaling thing where she posts this video and she says, you know, this is the police state, this is so wrong, everything like that. And again, I'll give it to you. Can't ride your bike on a sidewalk? I guess I can see why. I guess not. It's very petty, very stupid. I think it's probably just at the end of the day more for revenue generation. But this kid's a fucking prick. And she didn't get the response she expected in sharing this. She didn't get a bunch of other self-loathing liberals say, oh my God, innocent little child, sweet baby being harassed by the police. I mean, you got people saying, this kid's a fucking prick and he's getting what he deserves. And not only that, he's being a dick to the little woman who's a police officer. And then the moment a cop shows up, he blatantly just starts waving the race card around. So, again, like I said, I was arrested for not having an ID and the charges were dropped. And you deal with that in court. You don't act like a fucking prick when you're having to deal with the police. Because it's just not the way the system works.
I am about to leave, but it's no
Give me your
sense.
ID so that I can cite you.
I'm gonna give you my ID because I did not do nothing wrong.
Officer.
Adam 11 from...
So you can go ahead and arrest me.
Adam
I don't
11.
care, bro.
Adam
You
1
cannot
from
arrest
Adam
me
11.
for riding on the sidewalk. Bro,
Okay,
no, this
I'm
don't make
telling
no
you right
sense.
Officer
now.
N. Martinez.
You need to give me your
Merced
I don't need
Police.
to give you
Yes,
nothing.
you
I
do.
don't have to give you
Yes,
nothing.
you do.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
What?
What law says
So that I can 400 block of West Main.
Man, bro.
This is what happens. This is what happens. This is what happens.
So one of the officers know me, so bro.
You need to give me your
So
ID.
excuse me.
You need to give me your ID.
Excuse me.
You need to give me your ID.
Okay. Hey, let her. Hey, it's good. I got it. Hey, I got it.
Notice how he said in the beginning, go ahead and arrest me then. I mean, again, we're gonna get into this with this DL Hughley shit, and I don't know if it's some fucking Jedi mind trick these people are trying to pull, but again, do we have goldfish attention spans? Like, really, go ahead and arrest me. Why are you touching me? Go ahead and arrest me. Why are you touching me? Why'd you just tell me to arrest you and then act like you're fucking surprised when I'm touching you, you moron? Really?
Got it.
Are you in a
Don't touch me.
I got it, bro.
Don't touch me
now.
What do you
I got
think
it.
this is?
You need to give me your
I got
You
it.
better get off me.
Hey.
See, this is why I'm not a cop. Because I'll tell you what, anyone acted like this to me. If anyone said, go ahead and arrest me, and then said, why are you touching me, I would knock some sense into him. I'd be like, why can't you have a consistent thought? Is your brain not wired straight, young boy?
Chill out.
Give me your ID.
Why is you touching me?
Hey, I got it. Hey, I got it on film, bro. It's all
Yeah,
good.
you got it on
It's all
film,
good.
so you
It's
better
all
not
good.
touch me. I didn't
It's all
touch you,
good.
so
Give
don't
me
touch
your
me.
ID now.
It's all good.
Yes, you
No,
are.
I'm not giving you nothing.
Give me.
Bruh.
Hey.
Get off me. What
Give me
is
your
you
ID
doing?
now.
You have another charge. Now an actual charge. Now you have resisting arrest. See, and people wonder. People really wonder. Like, I see these videos, Francesca Ramsey at MTV. Everyone check out Sargon of Akkad's video about Black Lives Matter apologists for very good insight into all this. But you could have just had a simple ticket. You could have just said, I don't have my ID. You could have called it in. You could have just got a ticket. Now you're getting a charge because you're a dick.
What is you doing?
Put your hands behind
What
your
is you
back.
doing?
Put your hands behind your back.
Bruh.
Put your hands behind your back. Now.
You hear her talking to you?
Hey.
Do you hear her
Hey.
talking to you?
All right. Hey, no. Hey,
Bruh,
chill.
I'm not doing nothing to you.
All right, it's all
This is what
good.
they do to black people, bruh. You see what they do?
See that? Because he can't say that to the little Hispanic cop. Can't say that to the little Hispanic cop because, she doesn't have power, I guess, or, she's a minority, so she's a fellow subhuman. They're incapable of being racist. This crazy subhuman notion. And again, black people, start calling out other black people on this. When they try saying things like, well, black people can't be racist, just go to them and say, why do you choose to be subhuman? Why do you choose to believe that other humans are capable of something that you are incapable of? And just see what their response is. Because they don't know they're indoctrinated in Marxism. They don't know that that's where this concept has come from. They just know that it's a good scapegoat and a good cover for their racism.
Merced.
Come on, nigga. I'm not
Merced
doing nothing.
police.
Turn around.
Merced police. Merced police. We're.
Turn around.
You call when you're in
Bruh,
trouble.
I'm not doing nothing. Now you
Get
guys
real.
are witnesses. Hey,
Get
we're not
real.
talking. I'm not doing
talking to you
nothing,
either,
bro.
All right, bro. All right, bro.
Riding his bike.
All right, bro.
He was riding his bike.
Bro, I gotta get up out of here, bro.
Riding the
Get
bike.
up off me, nigga. What you stop? Get up off me, though. Why are you doing this? What did I do to you? Come on.
Do you see this? Like, as if he wasn't mouthing off to the cop, as if, like, maybe the third sentence in the video wasn't him being like, go ahead and arrest me then, and then he wants to act surprised when it's happening. And the whole thing is you have people sharing this, saying how awful it is. And I don't know how people aren't sharing this with the caption, this nigga makes us look bad. Period. Period. This is the shit. When people share this shit and they're like, oh, can you believe this? Yeah. Of course. Of course I can. Of course. Why are you having a hard time not believing it? He challenged the officer. He challenged the person we have endowed with authority to protect and serve. Again, they don't write the laws. This is a stupid law. I will give them that. But you're going about it the completely wrong way.
I'm a typical black person. Going home. This is what we see on Facebook.
Typical black person. I'm just going home. This is what happens to us every day. Yeah, when you're a fucking prick. When you're a prick, this is what is going to happen to you. Yes, that is standard. You mouth off to a cop, you disrespect their authority, you're going to end up racking up the charges. That's all it is. It could have been a ticket. It could have just been a ticket. But you thought you were big and tough because it was just a little woman in front of you. And then when the white guy shows up, oh, well, then it's the plight of being a black man and a black man in the hood with the brands on your body and the brands on your body and the brands on your body. Oh, whoa. Where's Jesse Williams at?
I don't want to argue with you, but you know what happened?
Yeah, I know exactly. He was refusing to abide to the officer's request.
You hear that? The kid goes, "Excuse me, sir, I know what happened," and the officer's just like, "Yeah, refusing to listen to an officer leads to an arrest."
Officer's request for what?
For his ID. That's it. If you would have gave her ID, that's it.
Hey, then get off me then.
Sit down.
Okay, can you get off me?
Sit
Bro,
down.
why are you squeezing my fucking cuffs?
Sit down.
God, bro.
Why are you squeezing my cuffs? Because you're not listening. Again, are these people brain dead? Like, I don't agree with this stuff. Like, there's a level where, again, I can say this till I'm blue in the face. I don't agree with the laws. But this isn't how you go about it. You don't listen, you're just going to make it worse for yourself. Very simple. Very simple. I mean, I hear these stories where it's like, oh, well, black mothers have to tell their children, of course, it's not the fathers telling them, black mothers have to tell their children how to act around police officers and this, and that. And I guess this kid just didn't get the lesson.
Oh, why is you taking me, nigga?
Because you're not listening, you moron.
Stop fucking kicking me, bruh.
How many times
got me
I asked
fucked
you to
up.
sit down?
I don't care, nigga. You
See? I mean, at this point, you could get punched in the face and it'd be well deserving. Why are you kicking me? How many times did I ask you to sit down? I don't care. It's all self-evident from there. All self-evident from there. I mean, and this is why you actually do have incidents happening where people get shot or something, and it ends up being justified. Because you have a simple situation that's made far worse by a lack of compliance. Because people want to seem tough. I mean, I guarantee you, a good 60% of what's going on here is him showing off for this camera right now. I mean, it's him knowing that this is going to end up going online. He better look tough for his boys. He better rack up that criminal record, because that you'll be the realest nigga in the hood now. Standing up to the big mean police officer. And everyone with some common sense who actually knows how to function in a civilized society is going to look at you as an arrogant little prick.
squeezing my cuffs and you fucking squeezing them too fucking hard, bruh. You got me fucked up, dude. I swear to God, bruh.
He's sitting down. Officer
Come
Jay
on, bruh.
Gonzalez, Merced
Bruh,
Police.
Get the fuck off me.
Officer Jay
Get the
Gonzalez,
fuck off me.
Merced
Get the
Department.
fuck off me, nigga.
Back up.
Take me
Yes,
to
sir.
jail if you
Yes,
want
sir.
me to right on the sidewalk.
Yes, sir.
Wait a minute.
What the?
That's what happens, you know. So, I just don't even know. Alright. Then, I've been seeing this shit. This guy. This is a really good video. First, let's get into this, though. And I feel really bad because I'm about to show this other guy's video. And I don't know his name offhand. Is it Brian Anthony Logan? Something like that. He's in my, yeah, Brian Anthony Logan. I want to make sure I give credit where credit's due, because it's a black guy with a YouTube channel, obviously some sort of conservative. We'll get into his video. Let's show this one first, though. And this shows, again, this sort of crazy mental health issue. Like this woman, you notice when the man is talking, this woman just starts like twitching and stewing over in the corner like she can't help herself and screaming and yelling like a raving lunatic. And it just makes it so hard to even try to listen to you and respect your point. And it's this sort of new black communism thing where it's like you can just repeat the party line enough times, lie and lie and lie to yourself until eventually you believe the lies. And you're also going to have her try to not acknowledge black on black crime. And I'll tell you what, if my nephew ever got killed or something at the hands of some goon in the street, and I heard one of these people try to say that black on black crime isn't a real thing or anything. I mean, you want to talk about Black Lives Matter? These people, with this whole trying to twist these statistics, they make it really apparent that they don't give one fucking shit about black people. The only thing they care about is being fuck the police. Fuck the police. That's all it is. I mean, they are so willing to just be like, black on black crime? Well, you know, white people kill other white people too, so let's move on. Let's just ignore that. Fuck those people. I mean, there's such a small regard for any black person that has had any black on black crime, I can't tell if they're just trying to dismiss it or trying to say they have a semantics issue with it, but it is mind-boggling. Like, trying to wrap your head around where this is coming from and how these people can honestly say they're advocating for a peaceful, unified society and change, it's aggravating. It is aggravating. Like, I cannot even. So let's get into this crazy woman. Crazy, like.
Officers brutally killed Thursday were ironically there protecting the rights of police protesters. But even as the horror was unfolding, many Black Lives Matter supporters took to Twitter to celebrate the murder of 5 brave officers. Here's one user tweeting this: "Don't feel bad for those pigs," and another writing, "Aw, it's unfortunate it wasn't more." This stunning reaction leading many to ask whether the Black Lives Matter movement is un-American. Here now to debate this is Fox News contributor Kevin Jackson and political commentator Lisa Durden. Kevin, first to you, how do you respond to these tweets last night coming from Black Lives Matter supporters?
You see her already twitching, right? She's already, like, stewing over there, just kind of. I mean, I'm surprised there aren't, like, conspiracy theories videos already, like, asking if she's, like, some sort of cybernetic clone with a glitch or something going on.
Well, we knew it was happening. It wasn't like it was a surprise. We, back in the days of Ferguson, all these guys were saying pigs in a blanket and the whole thing. So we knew leading up to this that the animus towards police officers in the black community was alive and well, and in fact, it was growing. And the problem is nobody addressed it. Nobody said, we're going to stand for law and order and make sure that people understand we're going to protect the people that have to protect the citizens of America. So I'm not surprised, honestly.
Lisa, were you surprised at the response?
I'm actually not surprised at the response because, as you know, in this country, we are built on retaliation. America retaliates against their enemies. America retaliates against people who are terrorists. And when somebody terrorizes America or harms America in any way from other countries, what do? We bomb them. We murder them. And a lot of times, innocent victims get killed in the crossfire. And that's just a part of the job. Now, when you have an issue like this, not that I agree with it, not that I think.
You know, that putting that mindset forth rationalizes so much wrongdoing. So, I mean, you could basically put that mindset and you could rationalize things like the Holocaust with it. I mean, lots of Jews were in positions of power and felt that they were subverting German interests and everything like that. The same way there are people who think now that AIPAC and certain Israeli lobbies subvert Americans' interests in foreign policies and stuff. So, I mean, again, it's such a bad mindset to have, and it's basically like trying to decivilize society to be rationalizing things in that sort of way, but we'll let this crazy woman continue.
think that Micah Johnson was somebody that should have been doing something like that. It's horrific either way, but maybe because he grew up in a country that was built on this kind of retaliation, he might have felt, I don't know, he might have felt that this was very apropos. The police officers ran through the black community and murdered black people like they were pigs in the streets. They shot people in the back, several individuals over the last week, and he might have felt like, well, in this country, when our enemy harms us, we retaliate.
So
is that
Kevin,
good thinking? Absolutely not.
Kevin, is this
But this is what
justified?
happened.
See, now, and that's a problem too, because in her head, because she's in this collectivist mindset, it's not a matter of individuals, not a matter of the individual perpetrator, the individual cop. It is black against blue, your team against my team. And to some extent, I wonder if the fact that sports, being predominantly, certain sports, there being so many African Americans involved in sports teams and everything like that, if that's a factor in the tendencies towards collectivist notions and such. So, continue.
Well,
When you have
Lisa's making the point that this is somehow justified, Kevin.
Not at all. I'm saying to you that this could be the thinking because in this country,
Lisa,
a lot of times, people retaliate against their enemies, and this man was maybe warped.
Yeah,
However,
I heard what you said.
However, it's
I heard
wrong
what
on
you
all
said.
sides. It's wrong for the police to murder and slay black men.
So she justifies it, then calls it wrong. This is another thing. Again, this is why I brought up the attention span of a goldfish, because we're between this video and the D.L. Hughley ones, we're going to see people say things and then completely negate them by their next statement, or maybe 10 minutes later, 5 minutes later. So she justifies it, and then she says, but it's wrong. I'm going to give you justification for why it happened, and then I'm going to just say it's wrong, after I provide reasons why I think it's justified.
The streets, just as it's wrong for Micah Johnson to kill.
Lisa,
Lisa,
this is a debate.
are you going to let me talk?
Kevin, your turn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, first of all, the idea that Lisa says we're in a country that is harming black people as a black president sits and is a top law enforcement officer in the country is ridiculous. Loretta Lynch, and before her, I can't remember his name, but the point is, black people are in charge of this.
Colin Powell, maybe. Condoleezza Rice. Who knows? There's so many of them at this point.
Country. The people in the cities where all these blacks are supposedly being killed are black folks. They're the people that they vote for. They're Democrats. What Lisa's explaining is the absolute nonsense that circulates in the black community, that you can't get ahead in this country and that there's somebody against them. The fact of the matter is, in America, there is nobody targeting black people. I've gone through the statistics. There were 200 to date of the 561 people who've been killed by police. 136 of them are black. So who are the other people, Lisa? So what's happening here, Clayton, is blacks are being taught to be racist. They're being taught to be ignorant of the actual facts of what this country brings.
Black
and what's so
people
sad
cannot
about
be
it?
racist because we don't have the power to be racist.
See? What she just said is this point that I keep trying to make because it's so offensive. And if we just change little semantics on it, black people cannot be racist because they are subhuman. And just say it like that. And like I said, black people watching this, if you're as appalled at this as I am, ask other black people, why do you want to be subhuman? Why do you... I don't have any power. The only power I have is over my own life. You're giving white people way too much credit. Way too much credit. And I see nonsensical things. I mean, the people who talk about this stuff, I had this conversation with this chick on Facebook. There's a guy I'm friends with on Facebook. He posts some of this stuff, and he buys into some of this stuff. He's a Muslim guy. But I mean, we'll have conversations about it. Like I asked him about the Moors, and there's a thing about a GoFundMe page. In fact, maybe I'll just get into that next. I have that pulled.
Black people
that's
did
the
not
most
hang
ignorant
white
statement
people.
I've ever heard.
Black people did not rape white people in slavery. Black people did not enslave white people. Black officers are not running through white neighborhoods, killing and shooting white people in the back. Black people are not stopping whites from getting housing. Black people are not stopping whites from getting jobs. No, we're not racist. Racism denotes power. We don't have the power to do that. And one black...
Hey, notice how, see, here's the thing. Again, you're talking about police officers. You're talking about the super wealthy, because slavery was an expensive thing. The average black slave cost $40,000 nowadays currency. I mean, buying a slave was like buying a brand new car. The average person can't just go out and buy a whole slew of cars. Same way the average person can't go out and buy a slew of slaves. But she's just saying, oh, well, there's a commonality with these people. They're all white. So this must be the problem. The same way, if people look at, oh, well, the leader of our Fed is Jewish, and, you know, this group is, this head of this guy is Jewish, and this person's Jewish, there must be a vast Jewish conspiracy. And it's the Jews, I tell you. And see, when someone comes out and says that about Jews, it always gets shot down as anti-Semitic. Always. But when black people do that about white people, and just blame all of them for the actions of a few, it's just somehow accepted. And then they honestly can just turn around and say, well, I can't be racist. I don't have the power to be racist. I'm subhuman. I'm below human behavior. I cannot exhibit the behaviors that a white person exhibits because I'm subhuman. It's so obnoxious. So obnoxious. And it's demented and warped. And I mean, I have a stomach virus, and it makes my stomach feel worse than this virus does. Just, oh.
President in 176 years of 43 presidents does not mean we have black control in this country. We have one black president
Lisa, everything
after
you just said,
176 years.
But you have black police and black judges and black Department of Justice and well, everything else, and they're just willing to disregard all the accomplishments to continue the narrative. And notice how this woman responds. This is the typical, when someone has their beliefs questioned, they double down. If what she believed was so solid, she could talk about it like a rational person. But because it's just this narrative that isn't fact-based whatsoever, she has to turn into a raving lunatic. She has to scream over him because there's nothing sensible she could point to and just say, oh, well, here are my facts, here are my stats. She just has to go for all this grasping at straws, emotional nonsense.
All of a sudden, we're great. Kevin, stop playing those games. You know the situation. Are you crazy?
What about
Lisa?
the killings in black communities this morning?
Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny for the woman that's screaming and yelling and twitching and everything else to ask someone else if they're crazy?
Answer for that. I love that.
Let me ask the question.
Yeah, go right
You
ahead.
have an answer. You have an answer. You have an answer.
When you
have an answer for everything.
When you have people criticizing the Black Lives Movement, if they really care about the black community, why wouldn't they be addressing the black-on-black crime in cities like Chicago, where there are murders every 2 hours in the city of Chicago?
First of all, murdering.
What's the party line? What's the party line?
In your own community is interracial. Let's just clear this up. I've said it a million times on Fox before.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Interracial.
It's okay, right, Lisa?
Most murders in the white community are performed by whites. Most murders in the black community are performed by blacks. So murders usually are interracial. So intraracial. So don't try to say that only black people are killing their own people.
No one's saying that. What we're talking about is the rates in which, and when they reduce them to a per capita basis, it starts to look like this, where the rates in which these happen amongst blacks compared to everyone else are leaps and bounds beyond. And it's so offensive to any of these black people who have been victims of crimes by other blacks that people like her and Francesca Ramsey on MTV are pushing this this new, I mean, this is in the same genre as the rape culture or the 73 cents nonsense, where it's this easily debunkable fact, or it's not a fact, easily debunkable talking point that they just know if they repeat it enough times, people will believe it. Morons will believe it. And if they just hammer it and hammer it and hammer it, hopefully people will buy into it. And I mean, again, think about all the victims of these crimes that they're admitting that, oh yeah, the crimes happened, but fuck them. We're not going to pay attention to them. It doesn't matter if there's, you know, X amount, many more of these victims than there are the Asian on Asian or white on white. Fuck them. We're not talking about that. That doesn't, I mean, I've heard people say it's not a thing, like as if it doesn't exist.
White people kill me with that low-brow statement. Stop playing
Lisa,
games.
nothing
the
you say
fact
makes
is,
an
all
ounce of
races
sense.
kill
Okay.
their own race
All right, now let
generally.
Kevin
So
respond.
it's not something that's only...
Yes, generally. But one group is doing it at rates that are far beyond any other group if you reduce it to per capita and even out for the proportionate mixes in the population. Now, if you account for the population, well, then it gets even worse. So, this is insane. This is insane, and it's a complete denial of something that is a obvious problem. There's something that should be the most pressing problem, because it's far worse than with anyone else. But now we're just trying to be told that it's not even real, basically.
Only
I'd like to
specific to black
respond. I'm
communities.
just not going to
Lisa,
talk over her.
Let Kevin respond.
I'm not going to talk over her. The fact of the
Thank
matter is
you.
everything that Lisa's
Thank you, but I'm fine with talking over you. I mean, that's what a cunt this one is.
Lisa says is absolute abject nonsense. Everything she has is an excuse for the behaviors that are going on in the black community. What Lisa doesn't want to talk about is the fact that there are people out there targeting police officers. Police officers are not...
You notice the twitching again? Because she's trying to hold in her outbursts because she can't handle being confronted with facts.
They're not homogeneous in color. They're heterogeneous. They're black. They're Hispanic.
True.
They're whites. They're everybody. They're being targeted by people that they're trying to protect. Lisa doesn't want to talk about the number of police officers who go into the black community to actually solve crimes committed by blacks in more ratio per capita than any other racial group. She doesn't want to talk about the people who that they have to console
of the
after
murders
black
in
people.
all
Hey, Lisa,
communities
I've
are
listened to you
performed
talk.
by
Why don't you
the
just
same
settle
race
down for a
person.
second?
Guys, we have
Lisa,
to
why
end
don't you
it
just
the
settle
same
down
difference.
for
All
a
right,
second?
guys, we have to end it there. We gotta end it there. We gotta remove the coffee from the set this morning. Let's.
And what this is people who are too ignorant to understand the phrase per capita. Now I'm going to bring this up in another video where I'm going to talk, and again, I'm going to plead with black people to just please stop. Stop embodying the negative stereotypes. Stop. I have a handful of articles that I'm going to cover about the concept of entitlement. Because, you know, I would hear these things that there's this stereotype about the entitled black person. And I didn't really see it personally. And now I'm seeing it left and right. And it's awful. I mean, again, I have my Muslim friend, we were conversating about some stuff. He posted this article about a guy who created a GoFundMe page to send himself back to Africa. And there, everyone's going, this is such a great idea, this is so amazing. Mind you, and I have all this stuff pulled. It's going to get its own video. But the guy's asking for $100,000. A flight to Africa costs $2,000. Passports, papers, whatever else. Let's overestimate. Let's give it another $1,000. So now we're at $3,000. What's the other $97,000 for? I mean, it's more like buy me a crib than send me to Africa. And he claims he wants racists to do it. And it's funny, because people are barely donating. In fact, you have more people donating and saying, we want you to stay, than go. And their excuse is, oh, well, it's because these racists are cheap. They're not putting their money where their mouth is. It never occurs to them, well, maybe there aren't as many racists as you think there are, and that's why this is failing. But I had this girl start to comment, because I asked my friend, I said, you know, when did it change? You had people like Frederick Douglass and Muhammad Ali, who both saw silver lining in slavery, who both realized there was more benefits for them being in America than being in Africa. I asked my friend, when did this perspective change? Of course, he gives me something, well, you know, this many of the wealthiest nations on earth, you know, are from Africa, and Africa has resources, and this, which is, again, is irrelevant to the lives of the average African citizen. Okay, there's a gold mine. It's not your gold mine, so what does that have to do with anything? Just, again, things that don't make sense logically, but this girl starts babbling about slavery and reparations and everything, and these emotional points. And I tried to tell her, listen, hon, I understand where you're coming from on an emotional level, but you have to realize we've had, you know, civil rights were for black people to partially undo and, you know, set the record straight, and those have been sold out to gays and women from the Democrats, and you've had other generations of immigrants. I don't think you'd be able to prove lineages. It's just, it starts to seem unpractical. And of course she brings up, oh, well, the Jews got money. Okay, yeah, that's Germany. That's a different country. Like, you can't just point over there and say, oh, well, they did it because of this thing after the fact. It's not like it's set precedent. Yeah, Obama is giving $4.5 billion to the Native Americans. He's your black president. Why didn't he do anything for black people? You know, America's a wealthy nation. No, we're $14 trillion in debt. Then here's where it gets crazy and it becomes blatantly obvious what it is. It's class envy being disguised as racism. Because she starts going on saying, because I tried to explain to her that only 1% of the population had slaves, and it's wrong to try to punish everyone for this. First off, you're talking to me about freedom and how you want a free country and you want people to be free, but in the same breath, you want the government sending people with guns to take money from others to give to you. So you're perfectly fine with other people's freedoms and other people's money being infringed on if you get to benefit. Like, it's a continuing cycle, and they fail to see it because they have a sense of entitlement. Then she says, you know, white people benefited from it because whatever city had the most slaves, and, you know, those towns, they set up stores and this, and like, sheer nonsense, because back in those days, there weren't cities and there weren't shops. You had people trading items, but they would generally travel with the items. You know, like Oregon Trail, horse and buggy, you know, you have a wagon going around. I mean, we're talking plantations. People had acres of land. Your nearest neighbor was a bit of a ways away. There weren't cities. So people make themselves look like idiots when they try talking about this stuff and putting it towards modern context. And then she tries to make the point that, you know, like people like Donald Trump, because he's rich, have benefited from whites who owned slaves in the past. And I said, no, Donald Trump's father immigrated here around World War II. So again, you're saying, let's punish someone whose parents weren't anywhere near America when this happened because they have money and you don't. It's insane. And I mean, there's other articles I've pulled that have this same mentality where it can only be described as entitlement. And black people need to start calling other black people out on it. You can't care if they call you a coon or an Uncle Tom or anything like that. This shit is making people look bad. It's going to inspire racism because there's a level of ignorance just being perpetuated. And now the funnier part, this shit cracks me up, is I tell this girl, you know, Last week in Europe, they found a house with 12 slaves. ISIS has sex slaves. There's more people in slavery right now than there's ever been in the history of the world. If whatever you're typing this on, if it's a Mac product, it was practically built by slaves. You are benefiting from slavery right now. And you lay out all the facts, right? And then the funnier thing is they go and they say, well, we're going to have to agree to disagree. I mean, I had this with a liberal friend of mine who supports Hillary, and I came out and I said, well, you know, I think you're going to vote for her, and then she'll alienate you somehow. Like, here's her trying to have a comedy club shut down for making jokes about her. Here is the Department of Justice funding cop killer rap videos. Here's the Department of Justice shipping guns into Mexico. Here's them doing this. I lay out the facts. And then it's like, oh, well, we're just going to have to disagree. You can't disagree with facts. You can deny reality. You can, but I don't recommend it. And that's what's going on, though. There's a hardcore denial of reality being perpetuated by these people. They don't care about facts. They don't care about any of that. They care about their narrative, and that's it. And again, if they repeat it enough times, they eventually hope their lie will become true. So, now let's get into this other nonsense, where we have Megyn Kelly and D.L. Hughley on Fox News. And some of these are lengthy, so I'm going to try to just skip around from it so